Welcome to In or Out, the European Ultimate Federation's show about the European Ultimate Club season. I'm Rai Vasudevan, your host, and we got a great show. It's coming down to the wire. Last week of the European Club season, regular season, and we have the last summer tours coming up this weekend. So there's a lot to talk about. We haven't talked about the last set of summer tours yet, so we're going to do that as well. And yeah, but to start things off, a couple pieces of housekeeping. There's been a lot of reactions to what's going on at the tail end of this season. So I want to try to address a few things personally before we bring on our guest. But before even that, I think we should just mention that there's another really cool ultimate thing going on right now, and that's the World Games. And this is Tuesday, the 12th of August, and the first day of games ended up today, and both the European teams won their games. Germany beating China, France beating Australia. So Europe up to a good start at the World Games. We'll see if that continues on the rest of the week. Best of luck to all the athletes from the European Ultimate Federations out there in Chengdu, China. Okay, first off, I want to talk about two main things. Number one's about single games, and especially how they pertain to the mixed division. It just so happens that mixed, quote unquote, finished on the first weekend of summer tours, the 2nd and 3rd of August. And we do understand that there was a bit of confusion there because on the website, it says that you can only put single games up until the last weekend of summer tours. Now, it's not really fully clear how we wrote that in, whether that meant the last weekend of summer tours for all divisions or the last weekend of summer tours for a specific division. So, for example, the question is, in these last 2 weeks, should there be mixed single games, yes or no? So we decided, or we always decided that the intention was always that the single games could go until the 17th of August. All games, including other tournaments, by the way, can happen until the 17th of August. In fact, at the beginning of the season, there was supposed to be a mixed summer tour on the 16th, 17th of August, but that got shifted away. So when people were making their season plans, when everything was going on, it was always the intention that single games could happen in these 2 weeks. So we'll get into this later. There's a very close cutoff in the mixed division between four hands at 16th place and Zoo Mixed at 17th place. And it's totally within the rules, but Zoo Mixed has made a single game. I believe it's going to be played tomorrow evening against Colorado from Germany. And that game is totally within the rules. And if that flips the results of who's in and who's out, that's just the way it's going to be. We have, since this was a bit confusing, we have given another team a chance to maybe do a last minute single game, given that normally you have to give a week's notice for a single game. We have given another team a chance to do that late because of some of the because last week was EYUC. They submitted some questions in good time. We couldn't respond because we were busy at EYUC. So there might be also one more single game or so happening in this last week in the mixed division. So things still coming down to the wire, not quite settled yet in mixed, even though we're done with summer tours and done with tournaments. John Doc, what about the Gentle versus Jet Set 15-0 game? It's not happening. We'll get to the open division in a second. Don't you worry, John Doc. Last thing about single games is that people should remember single games are weighted less than other games. So you have to do well in a single game to change your ranking, but even more well than normal because it's only worth 3/4 of a game. So that just means that it has a smaller percentage of your points average of your average of your ranking. So yeah, if it's your 11th or 12th game of your season and it's only 3/4 of a game, it might not quite be enough to push you over the edge. So just be ready for that. And of course, if we detect, like John Doc mentioned, that there's a 15-0 game or that there's a game that seems totally out of the ordinary and a team brings it up and says we should investigate that game, we will do that. And if we find out that there was any type of ranking fixing or one team just throwing a game to give another team ranking points or something like that, we take that very, very seriously. And if we figure that out as the EUF, both teams will be likely disqualified. So we will not be, there's zero tolerance for anything like that. So it better be a fair game with fair rosters and teams actually trying to play. Otherwise, there can be very bad consequences for both teams. So we expect everybody to uphold spirit of the game, that won't be an issue. Okay, so I think that just about does it for what I wanted to say about single games. I'll look out for the Zoo Mix versus Colorado game on Wednesday and maybe one or two other games happening this week to finish out the mixed division. But aside from that, summer tours are done. There's no more tournaments. And yeah. So now I want to get into a little bit about how the open division finished out in the last couple weeks in the first weekend of summer tours. And what happened was, for the first time in the open division, this did happen in the women's division last year, but the first time in the open division, two teams outside the top 16 qualified via wildcard. And people are now, I've seen in LTTV has a podcast show. I've seen also in the commentators WhatsApp chat, and I've seen just around other places that people are now questioning the system and what we should do about this. And this is taking stuff away from the system. So that's sorry. I'll get to you in Akitochu in a second. Going back to that previous topic, but let me finish this one first. That it's a bit weird that a team like Bristol and Jet Set, which are the two teams that qualified, we'll look at the rankings later, got there this way. So first of all, we totally acknowledge that it's not a super fair. The wildcard system is not totally quote unquote fair. Tournaments are allocated in a way at the beginning of the season. We don't know how strong teams are going to be. And we did our best to make sure that teams wouldn't have to travel long, but also so that there was no really just clean, easy summer tour. We actually had in all the summer tours, except for, I believe, Warsaw Wrocław, the one coming up this weekend, there was an EUCF level team in every single tour. It just so happened that this year, Ranelagh in the Sterling Tour was only the 16th best team, and XVI, who was a 12th best team last year, dropped down below the top 20 in this year's rankings. So we couldn't really foresee that. Another thing that people talked about was that some of the tours are really small, and it's unfair that some teams have to play a tournament with 10 to 16 teams even, and some teams only have to win a tournament with 4 teams. We know that doesn't seem fair, and it's not. But we didn't intend to have tours of 4 teams. In fact, Sterling originally was allocated for 8 teams. 2 teams dropped out really quickly, so it was down to 6. And then we had 2 teams drop out in the last month, so we had to go down to 4. It was not our intention to have tours go down to 4, but we had to deal with that. And maybe that means we have to think about something to do with how we allocate summer tours really early, or we are going to look into, as the competition committee, how can we get fewer teams to drop out of summer tours, because this was a big problem. And yes, that does make it more difficult or less difficult for some teams to qualify. And yes, Hornsild was stronger, but that's the case. It's just not totally fair. But the reason we have this in here is just to add some excitement to the end of the season, to make it so teams can, if you have a bad season, have one last chance for something to fight for, and maybe you have to take out a top team to get there. But you have one last chance to qualify if you can just have a really good end of season tournament and have something that's more or less like a game to go. In one of the mixed tours, we couldn't have a game to go because we had an odd number of teams and had to finish with pool play. Is the only way we could have a format that worked. So yeah, that one's a bit weird because the wild card went based on point difference, but in everywhere else there were games to go, and we liked having that kind of element of a final at a tournament that decides a few spots. And yes, the trade-off is that these teams are probably not as good as the 15th and 16th best teams, but we thought that's a good trade-off to have. So I want to talk about a couple of things. So Jet Set, I think that one's tough because they did win a summer tour where there was no other team in the top 20 except for them, and that caused them to win a wild card, and that's not great. But like I said, we allocate these things at the beginning of the season, and then XVI was a top 12 team in our minds at that time. So we're going to think about that and figure out how to allocate these tournaments maybe more fairly, or maybe think about getting rid of the wildcard system altogether. We're definitely going to ask for a lot of feedback and see what other teams think. But yeah, it's definitely a bit weird that Jet Set got to win a wildcard without beating any teams in the top 20. Bristol, on the other hand, did beat a top 16 team. And that's really what the system was set up to do, is that give a team a chance to knock out a team that made it for the ranking. And they literally did that. It looks like they have knocked out Ranelagh. Of course, the rankings could change in the next week. So maybe Ranelagh will push themselves in the top 14 and qualify. But it looked like they knocked out a team by winning a game there. And we're going to get more into that with our guest coming up in a second. But yeah, I think that's exactly what the system was designed to do. So maybe you don't like that. Maybe people think that it's better that we just go purely by the rankings. That's another way to do it. We're definitely going to be assessing all of this in the competition committee retreat later on in August. But yeah, wanted to draw that up. Okay, before I go to my guest, I'm going to go quickly to the chat. It says, I thought the whole point was that summer tour games should be the last games and the ranked system cannot be gamed. Yes, that's part of the point, but we did not plan for mix to end in the first weekend of summer tours and not have games in the last weekend of summer tours. We never planned that. We never made an announcement ahead of time saying that that we would end mixed earlier than the other divisions. So it was the case that the last weekend of summer tours, or the last day of summer tours, was the last day to submit results. And that is the 17th of August because there are other summer tour results in other divisions. We're going to think about reassessing this next year, but because of that, we thought that it was not fair to not allow games in this last system. And that, yeah. And of course, in terms of the system, quote unquote, being gamed, if we see that results are coming in that are not fairly played out, that there was a game in there that's not fairly played out, and we think that it's really gaming the system, there will be huge consequences for both teams involved. Yeah. So I understand the frustration. I understand that the frustration that we didn't communicate it fully. And we also intend to, over this competition committee retreat weekend and probably going as an action item for the off season, we'd like to codify one document that has all the rules for the EUCS rather than have it kind of scattered around websites and in FAQs and stuff like that. That's not good enough for the professionalism we want to bring to the EUCS. So we're going to try to improve that. We're going to try to improve that over this offseason. Okay. John Dock just saying Bristol and Jet Set are not that as bad as they're being made out to be. Yeah. And for those teams that might be upset that they didn't qualify and they were a 15th and 16th ranked team, like, trust me, they had chances to do better in the season to qualify a bit higher than that. Okay. With that being said, I want to bring in our guest who's a member of one of those teams. Dom Knight was on Bristol. Shocker team. It is now, I mean, UCS has been around for 2 years, but you are now the lowest ranked team to ever qualify for the EUCF. I'm sure you're feeling that with a lot of pride. First of all, Dom, how you doing here on this summer night?
I'm doing great. It's really hot in England, so baking alive, but similar to you, I imagine. But yeah, super happy to have made it through as making history as being the lowest ranked team to qualify. Yeah, don't think it's been done before. Not in this, not from 32nd or 33rd, anyway.
No. So I want to ask you about like your planning going into summer tour. You knew your ranking. You knew it was probably unlikely that you were going to rank your way into UCF or even second division UCF based on where you were coming into the weekend. And then you drop a game to the likes of Smash D in the first day of summer tour. So like, what was your game plan going into this? Did things just click at the right moment? Were you guys trying to win this wild card? Like, what was your plan going into the weekend?
It's a good question. I think we always knew that because we put ourselves into a bit of a hole in the early season that we were going to have to win this. It was, if we don't win this, we're just not going, and that would suck. And we approached the weekend. We were like, okay, we want to win every single game, but the format allowed some, like a chance, even if you didn't do super well in pool play. So we decided to give Smash D the game, obviously, as you would. It's a bit of charity, and we knew that we were probably going to be playing Alba because of the points difference between the three of us. So as long as we had lost in the margin of 1 point, we weren't going to be playing Ranelagh in the semis, which is what our main concern was. And fortunately, it worked out the way that we gave ourselves such a huge buffer that we could only lose the game by 1 point, which was obviously not planned, but such is the way games go sometimes. And From there, we played Alba, which was a repeat game from the day before, and I think we only beat them on Universe, and it was the same result the day before. So that was very close as well, and they were quite good. And then we had a very good game against Ranelagh, and they brought a really good team. I think that we typically tend to trade games with them. So one team will lose, one team will win. We'll just sort of swap around who's on the winning side of it. And we were fortunate enough to be the ones on the winning side.
Yeah. Do you know? I mean, you say you trade games with them. If you look at the ranking algorithm, which we do quite heavily, you are ranked quite below them. I mean, the way the algorithm says you guys are not quite equal teams trading games back and forth. What is it about them, or what is it about you that allows you to, let's say, play up above your level when you have an opponent like Ranelagh?
It's a good question. I think that UK teams sometimes end up having slightly weird results against each other, and I'm not sure why that is.
I don't think Ranelagh would like you calling them a UK team, but that's
no. But I'm talking more about the other games that we played. So
okay.
I don't think we would have anticipated to have such a close game against Alba or such a close game against Smash D. And these results sometimes don't go the way you expect them to. But I think there's a lot of familiarity between UK teams. So that's that. But with Ranelagh, I don't know what it is. It really does come down to like a coin toss. I mean, I think they've beaten us. We've beaten them twice this year, and they've beaten us once. But the year before, they've beaten us 3 times, and we've beaten them or 2 times, and we beat them once. So I think we're even over the past 2 seasons.
All right. And yeah, so did you do anything differently in that game against Ranelagh compared to how you played them on day one? Like, how did you approach an elimination game like that?
Yeah, well, so we played them in the very first game, and I don't know if we were fully prepared for the game that they were going to bring. It was early morning, one of those games. Just got to Scotland. Everyone had travelled up like the night before, so I think some people were lacking sleep, and so we came to the game a little bit slowly, and they were great from the start. And I don't think we were always really playing catch up to them. And so that's why there was that 15-10 win that they started off with. But I don't think we necessarily played our best game, or many of our best games on the Saturday. The other thing was, I think the second day was considerably windier than the day before. So that on the first time we played them, there was almost no wind, and then there was like a storm front coming across Scotland, and we started to feel that, and so that meant that there was a lot more zone being played. Teams were struggling to hold up wind, and points were being drawn out a lot longer, and there's just generally more turnovers.
All right. Well, there you have it. And what do you want to say to any of the people saying, what the hell, why is a 32nd ranked team going to UCF? And these guys don't belong here. What do you want to say to those people?
Win the games that matter.
All right. That being said, I just want to note we're getting a lot of talk in the chat still about this single game situation. We'll get to that at the end of the show. I'll try to address that stuff at the end of the show. Sorry, we have a few more other things to get through. But for right now, we're going to go on and look at the rankings and what's going on. Okay, so with that, let's take a look at the rankings and how they've fallen at the end of the last summer tours. So for those a little bit of behind the scenes stuff, I actually had not properly coded my website to handle teams winning two wild cards. And I had to add this little thing so that now it can handle team winning 2, and I still properly say that 4 wildcards are won. So I did a little bit of extra coding to get this thing to work in the last couple weeks. But yeah, so after last summer tours, Mosquitoes, even though TFC Taucher did win Summer Tour Heilbronn, I guess they won some games by not quite enough and actually dropped in rating a little bit. And Mosquitoes and TFC Taucher have been just swapping back and forth for the top spot. And even though Mosquitoes didn't play, TFC Taucher's results brought them down a little bit. Below that, we got Deep Space, Pot of Rangers, Disconnection, Lemmings, Savage Ultimate, who won their summer tour. And yes, it was on point diff. There was a 3-way power pool that they had to end that tournament with. And all the teams went 1-1, and Savage came out on top of that one. I believe it was Leftovers, and I'm trying to remember who the last team was in there. But I'll take a look at that when we get into the summer tour results. Savage, Puck, Tartu Turbulence dropping quite a few spots. I think a lot of them would have expected to win that Warsaw Summer Tour, but they lost a game to Leftovers in the initial pools, bringing them down a little bit. Reading all the way down at 10th. Glasgow, Disco Bolo, Heck winning the Sterling Summer Tour, which was another surprise. I guess that was around where you were, so maybe you have some insights on what happened there. Seskidistis, Leftovers, and Four Hands. And again, Four Hands, Zoo Mixed is right now the cutoff. It's 1 point. These teams have literally nothing between them, 37 points to 36 points. But that's where the cutoff stands right now. There will be a single game between Zoo Mixed and Colorado, both teams of which want to get into that top 16. So I don't think any team is going to be, it will be a fair game where both teams probably back themselves to jump in. Below this, in the E2CF situation, we got Zoo Mix, Frumix, which does not have their 10 games, so they will be probably not going to the second division EUCF. Colorado, Remix, Helsinki, BN1, Out, Thundering Herd, and then I guess Skydus Warsaw would be if you click on eligible teams only, they would be the team that gets into the 24th spot. So Dom, looking at this mixed division, what are some things that stand out to you? What are some things you want to talk about? What are some questions you might have?
Well, I mean, Heck qualifying is not qualifying, but winning the wild card is, a bit exciting. On home turf as well, technically. A bit of a weird schedule because of the round robin element, but I think they proved that they're like of the caliber. They beat Reading like quite early on, and I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't watch that much of the mixed division, but they did look very strong in what I saw of them. And I think Reading may be a bit of a surprise to see them come in second, or I think second in that summer tour. But they had fewer players this weekend traveling up to Scotland. I think they were down to 6 men, maybe.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. Quite a shortened roster. So I think they probably achieved what they wanted to out with a smaller size roster. I'm a bit surprised to see the Rangers so high, but I'm going to admit that I haven't seen them play. But I think I've seen Lorenzo Pavan play, and I'm sure he's still playing for them.
Yeah.
So
he didn't transfer this year like he did last year, so he's stuck with the Rangers now.
Stuck there, but clearly they're doing well. They've got something right.
But Deep Space managed to punch their way 2 spaces higher than last ranking into the top 3. So they have now gotten out of that second seed situation. I think what's interesting compared to, let's say, last year, to see that Tartu and Reading are going to be 3 seeds, or if the rankings hold, will be 3 seeds at UCF. That's pretty shocking stuff. And yeah, to see teams like Savage pushing up. I mean, they were an elite invite team, barely in. Seeing them hold strong at 7th, pretty cool to see. Lemmings, a team that I heard might have had some roster turnover, and losing players to Deep Space and Reading, is now ranked 6th. So it's very good for the Lemmings to be up that high. And Disconnection also, I think, had a very good elite invite and is doing really well. So things all mixed up in the mixed division. I do want to take a quick look at the cutoffs. So Four Hands versus Zoo Mixed, and just see a little bit about what's between them, because this is where it's a little bit brutal to have this system, because there's not much between those teams. We could take a quick look at the mutual game. So let's see, against Oxley, Four Hands, Zoo Mixed did slightly better, 15-8 or 15-9. Disco Bolo, they both had universe point wins. Leftovers, Four Hands only losing on universe, whereas Zoo Mixed lost by 4. Out, 15-11 win, 15-12. So there again, Four Hands does better. Savage, this is the big difference, a 15-11 loss, whereas Zumix got a 9-8 win. But you will notice I've added now the weights to these games, and Summer Tour games count for 1.25, but low scoring games count a bit less. So this game I looked before was Zumix's highest game by far, but only weighted 1.18. So just a bit less because the game wasn't that high scoring. So if you look here at the two plots, you see this is again that Savage win 9-8 over Savage for Zumixed. Forehands not having quite as high highs, but very similar looking plots, and you can see the two averages, the two weighted averages, just right on top of each other. Yeah, two teams sadly did not play each other directly, which would have been very nice, but as it is, 1.41 rating difference, and there might be a couple games of single games left, so this is not totally locked up just yet. And then I want to look at, would be Thundering Herd Sky This, but it's actually Sky This versus Steamhawk here. For the in or out of the second division of UCF. They did not play each other. They also don't have any mutual opponents, which is quite interesting for a season like this. And actually, does Steamhawk even have enough games?
Steamhawk haven't played enough games.
Okay, so it would be Wrocław and Sky This that we should actually be looking at. So let's go there. They probably do have some mutual opponents.
You'd think so, being an opponent.
Yeah, two Polish teams. There are a lot more comparisons. I'm not going to go through every single game, but you can see there a lot of mutual opponents, but a quite more significant difference, a 15 to 13.4 estimated score, 178 point rating difference. Looking here, you can kind of see two more different looking plots than each other, and this makes a lot of sense here. Sky This just has a better slate of games than Wrocław does. All right. Anything else surprising to you or interesting that you want to talk about or look at in the mixed division?
I am a bit surprised about Lemmings. I probably shouldn't be. They lost quite a core of players, like you mentioned. But they're still, I mean, a lot of their games at Summer Tour were very close. I mean, I think they had like a 15-12 game against TFC, and then beat Disconnection, who are ranked ahead of them, I believe. And had a 15-13 game against Deep Space. So clearly something clicked. But I wasn't necessarily anticipating them to be this highly ranked. But they're proving everyone wrong, and that's nice to see.
It looks from this that they played over the 3 tournaments that they played in the season. Like the box plots look more or less in the same spot. They had some high highs and low lows. Like here's a loss to Seski Distance, I think at the beginning of the season people might have not thought would have been such a bad result, but Seski's not quite the team they used to be. And then over here, a 15-7 win over Colorado, their best result in Heilbronn. It looks like here's another 13-10 win over Glasgow and the 15-10 win over Zumix. Those are the ones that are really pulling them up in the rankings. And then, lost to Padova Rangers, lost a win over Heck, it looks like. And lost to Disconnection and lost to Deep Space. So, just fairly good, solid results. I think if those are their worst games, those didn't seem like too terrible. Yeah, this one down here, lost to Seski. Maybe that's not so great, but doing quite well in the ranking. Playing the system well.
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's go quickly to the Open Division, which you're now in, and you, of course, love to see this yellow band down here, which I
so far away from everyone else.
Not even in the E2CF conversation, but going to UCF. Chalk still holding on strong in the 1 seed. Mooncatchers, Wall City. This didn't change. 0 delta from the last ranking. Hut, a huge winner, going up 6 spots, winning Summer Tour Heilbronn, beating Wall City in the final to get there. So they get themselves one of the top 4 seeds. La Fota in the 5 seed. Heidi's staying farther away from the cutoff spot like last year, very solidly in with the 6th spot right now. Clapham down at 7th, moved up a little bit after the past weekend, but didn't go up that high. So they will still likely be a 2 seed in a pool at UCF, both Lafota and Clapham will be 2 seeds, so it's going to be pretty scary out there in the open division. Codric Ground is rounding out the top 8. So Quixotes, number 9th, Kfum Orebru, who we're not sure how they would do. They were ranked really high at 4th coming into the weekend. Now that some connectivity has put itself in place, they're now at 10th, but they're still not super well connected to the rest of the tournaments. There is a connection now, but it's not. I think when they play Summer Tour, this could go any which way, and we'll get into there when we do Summer Tour previews. But yeah, Orebru still in the top 16 at 10th, but we'll see if that can hold coming out of Summer Tour. Is no good at 11th. Chevron dropping 5 spots and 12th, having a bad weekend from their standard at Heilbronn. And then below that, now Bad Skid and 3SB in the sort of not safe zone because wildcards could go outside, make teams outside 13th and 14th spot. And now 15, 16 are now dead into the EUCF2 bids, given that Jet Set and Bristol won their summer tours. So Gentle, Ranelagh, Rat Track, Ketchup, One Tribe, Flying Angels, Freesbees, and Smog are the second division EUCF teams for right now, with Jet Set getting the wild card going into the Hornsild summer tour. So yeah, Free Speed just out, Hardfish just below that. There might be some teams don't get quite enough games. I think most of the teams here are playing a summer tour, and I think we did just check before here that One Tribe are actually playing 4 single games to round out their 10 games in these last weekends. So they should make it just about. We'll see if they hold the rankings, but at least they get their 10 games. And then, of course, we have to mention one more time, Bristol down at 32nd, winning Summer Tour Sterling, and going to go to UCF. So I'm sure you got a lot to think about with this slate of teams that you're going to be playing against and second division UCF teams that you won't have to worry about. What do you see here in this rankings, and what do you want to dig into?
It's terrifying that Clapham and Lafota are going to be 2 seeds in a pool. I just think that's going to change like the Friday of a ECF so much. And I think, any of these teams that are the 1 seed in their pool are, secretly hoping that those teams get passed into, separate pools. But someone's going to be stuck with them.
I mean, I don't know. Like, if you back yourself, do you want to get them in pool play or quarterfinal? Because if they're in another pool, then probably going to have a 1 or 2 cross into your quarterfinal. So it depends. I don't know what you really want, but I guess that depends team to team.
I think either way, it's not the nicest prospect, is it? But the other interesting things, I guess, are we don't really know how good KFUM are going to be.
Yeah.
They've got a lot riding on the back of this summer tour, essentially. And I think that they've played 6 games already, but this presumably will change a lot off after this weekend, just because they're going to be playing a lot of teams that they haven't played.
Yeah, if you look at the connections graph, which doesn't show up too well when I'm streaming, so sorry, apologies if this is a bit slow. But yeah, they are connected to their spring tour, which now has kind of loose connections into the rest of like all the teams over here. So they will be more directly connected, and we'll look into their summer tour later. So we'll see if they can hold that ranking. But you mentioned that their games are quite solid. They've got let's see here.
Got some big wins.
Yeah, they got some big wins over here. And win 15-7 over XVI, 15-4 over KFK, 14-9 again over XVI, beating also 14-8. Piru 15-3. That'll probably be a blowout game by the end of things, as it's below their average. And once they get their 10 games in, that'll probably get out of there. And then 15-2 Fire of London. So they're probably even stronger than their current ranking, as these 2 games will probably be knocked out of their average by the end of their summer tour. So I think they're in pretty good spot to qualify, honestly.
Yeah, me too. I would be a bit shocked. I would say they've got like a reasonable grouping of teams to play at summer tour, teams that they should quite comfortably beat. So you'd think, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So we'll look into that into summer tour stuff. Let's look a little into the cutoffs. So here, I think there's a number of cutoffs you want to see. So Chevron versus Bad Skid, there's a 10-point difference. And I think we can look at the matchup of Chevron versus Bad Skid, but I think what you need to look at is common opponents, and can one of Chevron's opponents do badly or one of Bad Skid's opponents do well in order to have one team jump the other? So with Chevron here, you see the two spots are quite equal. Chevron has one result here, which is the win over Clapham, 15-10. I'm not sure what tournament that was at.
Elite
But
invite,
yeah,
maybe.
was that probably a lead invite?
I think so.
So that's obviously huge for them. Aside from that, the teams look quite standardly the same. So you're curious. Actually, it's funny. Bad Skid's best game is a win over Chevron directly, so that's helpful for them. I'm curious if I look at the games of both teams, are any that jump off the page that are going to be playing this weekend? I'll keep in mind, I don't think.
So Smog are playing in Wrocław.
Okay, Smog are playing
believe.
Wrocław. That's a 15-8 win. So if they do better or worse, that could move Chevron a bit. And over here, I think Free Speed are playing in the summer tour.
They are.
And Ketchup are definitely playing in a summer tour, and Ketchup are probably looking to win that. So if Ketchup can beat KFUM, that might jump Ketchup up with might be enough to push Bad Skid. 10 points is quite a big push, but if Ketchup have a very good weekend, I could see that flipping these two results for sure. Yeah, interesting stuff. So we'll have to see if that if that's going to happen. But again, both of these teams could qualify. If I were Chevron or Bad Skid, I'd be rooting for Orebro to win, and also rooting for Quixotes and Costa Rica Grandes, who are both at Rimini, to win, to make sure none of the other wildcards go to teams outside the top 14. Another cutoff is 3SB and Gentle. This is the thing people have been talking a lot about, what's going on with Gentle. And if we do the matchup of 3SB and Gentle, is there any chance that Gentle shoot up? I looked at this earlier, and I didn't think that Gentle had too many opponents that were playing this weekend, or did Chevron? So I'm sorry, 3SB. 3SB, I don't think any of these opponents are playing this weekend. And on Gentle side,
I don't think they have any either.
I don't think they have any either. So it looks like it'll be tough for them to move, because you'll have to have opponents 2 steps away from you, and it's really hard to move that far. So I would say 3SB and Gentle are kind of locked in. So for 3SB, I mean, I don't think Ronald is pushing up that many points without playing. Rat Track is playing, but they're still 150 points away. But do remember that summer tours count for more. So if Rat Track has a really good weekend, maybe they could try and pull themselves into that top 14. So yeah, I think that they're safe from Gentle and Ranelagh, but maybe they got to think about watching Rat Track and Ketchup. So if I'm 3SB and Bad Skid, I'm rooting against Rat Track and Ketchup and rooting for Quixotes, Costa Rica, and Orebro. So that's what I would say. Anything else you want to look at in this open division?
I'm interested in where Freesbees are going to go after their qualification at Belgian Nationals, because I didn't really have them on my radar. I hadn't played them, I think, for many years, but they seem to have had like a surge with a lot of the Belgian under-24s on their team.
Yeah, we played them. We played them at Spring Tour here in this. They beat us 15-12. Very young team, very athletic, very eager. I believe they are going in the roster. I can see where they're playing. They're playing in Wrocław.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe if they can go on the tails. I mean, they beat Jet Set, who was going to UCF, but in a sort of weird way. So they have beaten a team going to UCF. They did lose to them here at Spring Tour, but yeah, we'll definitely have a look when we do the summer tour previews in a sec. We'll see where they're at and see if they could maybe push themselves to move up in the rankings. But as it stands, they're right now in 22nd, not quite at the second division EUCF. But I think for them, if they don't quite make it to EUCF, probably getting the second division EUCF will be a nice tune-up for them going into Worlds next year, as they'll get some more top-level European competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would also, we would be, foolish not to note the transfers made from Jet Set to Gentle over this recent transfer period.
Yeah.
Only for this to happen,
Yeah, I do. Yeah, we have to mention that, and commiserations to these players, because I'm sure it does not feel good. But I believe it's Emile Deric and Louis Courtois did transfer right at the transfer window exit just to get themselves on Gentle, and it does look very much that Jetset will be going to EUCF and Gentle will not be going to EUCF. So that's it's tough stuff to leave your home team and then see your home team go past you.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to be taking a lot of grief for that.
And Akito Show says no Tobe or Atkins for Gentle. Yeah, also no Lander, also no David Novak. They were missing a number of their top players. And I mean, Gentle's a great team, but it's just that EUCF is no longer something you can just walk into. There are a lot of good teams out here in Europe, and if you come to a summer tour, which is where again all your games count more at summer tour. So if you have a weak summer tour, even if you have a decent elite invite, where by the way they came last place at elite invite, they did have a 1 win against La Fota, but aside from that, they didn't win any of their games. That's just not going to be enough to qualify. And it looks like, yeah, they were enough to get top 16 barely, but it doesn't look like they have any way of getting to the top 14, which is what it takes right now. Anything else? Yeah, XVI, big hit, losing 8 spots. Echo, another big faller. That's another thing that to also take a look at. The risers, the top prizers, top fallers. Top riser was Freesbees over the weekend. They hadn't played anything, so they've already moved up 9 spots from where they were just by sitting and having their opponents do some work for them. We mentioned Krut already, another big riser, and then the biggest fallers. Barcelona going down 21 spots. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if they brought a totally different roster to summer tour than they did spring, but Outsitters going down 20 spots. Smash D, who we were talking about at your tour, going down 16 spots.
Very tough.
I'm curious, did you guys jump? Did you guys rise or fall?
I think we rose somehow.
You did rise 6 spots, so I guess that win over Ronald does help, I think.
Could have been even more lowly ranked, 38th team instead of the 32nd.
All right. Anything else for Open, or should we move on to women's?
No, let's go to women's.
All right. Women's division, last division, until we're going to look at the summer tours coming up this weekend. Shout still holding strong in first place, 12-1 record, beating Krut. Actually, there was no delta from the last ranking, but I don't know if that's the last ranking at the last show, so I will go through the top 16 again anyways. So Shout up first, Jinx Midnight second, Krut Moon Cup. I think these have been, to me, the top 4 of this season, and it'll be, of course, not that semis is guaranteed for these 4 teams, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them end up as the top 4 again and see how things shake out at UCF. Below them, Tequila Boom Boom, Wook qualifiers, Overshout, going to be there in 5th place. Iceni, BFD Cheetahs, the second team from Bologna, still holding strong, but they only have 3 games in. They will be doing 2 single games against Sharks to help both of them get their 10 games in, because they're both only going to get 5 games at Summer Tour. So they have to get 2 more games in. They're going to play an additional 2 games on top of the tournament there, which is totally allowed. And we'll see if they manage to hold their ranking down, because I think Cheetah's results are a bit strange that they're still so high. But we'll see if they hold on to it. Yaka, Bristol, Fabulous, 3SB, Hot Mess Express from Switzerland, Heidi's Synergy, Smog Women, and Queen Kong run at the top 16, with these last 2 spots being not quite safe, depending on how the wildcards go. Then E2CF, we got Spice, Ketchup, Gentle, Malmö, Kafum, Örebro Women, who I thought was going to have a much better season, to be honest with you, but they're sitting here at 21st. East Block, Sick, and LMU with Dublin Gravity just out of that E2CF. A lot of these teams don't quite have their 10 games in. I don't know if all of them are playing summer tours, so that will, of course, play a role. But yeah, this is where things stand just before the last weekend, where we're going to have 2 summer tours for women's in Rimini and Wrocław. What do you see here? What do you like? What do you want to dig into?
Well, I'm super interested in Heidi Synergy, a team that I haven't heard about before, but I don't believe there's been a women's team from Heidelberg that has gone to the EUCF, or not that I've heard of, unless they've been rebranded.
I think there was a team once. Oh, I can't remember what their name was, but it was like, I think they might have combined with the Gummibärchen Club, so there was some type of Candy plus Heidi's team that I've seen maybe a few years ago, but I can't remember. The name escapes me right now. But I don't think it was called Heidi Synergy anyways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just cool to see their program sort of coming back because, like, speaking in terms of history, they're a very strong team maybe 10, 11 years ago, like when they went to WOC specifically. I think another thing that stands out to me is um, I'm
John
sort
Doc
of
says in the chat it was Heidel Barshin. That was the combination team of
Bartian.
Heidi's and
Okay,
Gummy Bearshin. Yeah. Yeah.
apologies. I'm sort of surprised to see Smog on the cusp. They've had some strong games like coming into the end of the season. So I believe they're going. I don't know which summer tour they're going to. I presume they're going to
I think
one.
that because they had the win at the UKU women's qualifier, right? They won that tournament.
Yeah, they won
But
the
I think the
tournament.
Iceni game didn't count because Iceni wasn't counting it. But the Bristol win did count. If you look at their plot for them, actually their best wins were in spring tour, but this win against Bristol up there with one of their top wins late in the season. Did
Yeah.
have this bad UKU wind farm that's holding them down a little bit. That might be what's going on. A 15-3 loss to Bristol in that one. So
Oh, wow. I
up
don't.
and down
It
results for
actually
Smog.
doesn't look. It doesn't look like they're going to summer tour. So you know that
They
this
have the
might
10
sort
games
of
in already. So
they do, but they might end up getting pushed like further down by one of these UK teams that they've had multiple games against because Spice, Bristol, and well, Spice and Bristol are definitely competing this weekend in Wrocław. So depending on how results go, they might go up, go down. I think they're sort of relying on Bristol to do well now to bring them up.
Yeah. Especially, I think they have a couple games against Bristol, so their strength of schedule would go up a little higher if they can. Bristol can do well for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the cutoff here between Queen Kong and Spice real quick. See what's between these teams. If we looked, have they played each other? No, they haven't played each other. A lot of mutual opponents here against. Oh, sorry, this is with that unchecked. That makes more sense. No mutual opponents actually between the two teams. So, yeah, pretty even looking spreads between the two teams. A 15 to 14.8 expected score. So at least
Very close.
Very close. Not quite as close as the mixed cutoff, but close. Spice's best game is the win over Örebro. Queen Kong's best game is the win over Fabulous. Worst game, Malmö. And Spice's worst game is the loss to Smog 12-6. So, yeah, like you said, Spice going to compete. Is Queen Kong going to compete this weekend? Let's have a quick look. No, they're not. So I guess they're not actually going to go for their 10 games. So they will be giving up a spot in that top 16, and it'll go to Spice. Will already be up there. That'll be good for them. All right. Anything else that you see in this women's ranking, or do you want to start looking at summer tours?
Well, yeah, I'm a bit surprised to see East Block sitting in 22nd.
Yeah,
Very good team. Have been very successful in previous EUCFs. Were they not top 8 in the last EUCF?
they were. I believe they were top 8 in the last UCF, but
So, well, yeah,
yeah,
things change, but still a little surprised. But I think they're also competing in this quite stacked Wrocław summer tour. So,
yeah. Of course, they lost Christina Tlusta, their best player,
yeah,
who has moved to Crit this year. That hurts a lot, it turns out, and I don't know if they've lost any other good players. I think they still had a pretty good team around her, but yeah, she was really the kind of talismanic force of East Block for the past couple of years. So I can tell that's probably a tough hit, but she went over to get a bit more experience on a higher level team this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they compete. Anyway, I think they're in a pool with Bristol, Catch-Up, and Flame. So see how the results stack up.
All right. Anything else here? Or should we start looking at those summer tours? I think that's exciting to have a look.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Sean Dock asking, do Queen Kong have games to plan to reach 10 games? I believe they don't. I don't see any other games planned for them. So it looks like they did Spring Tour and Toms, but didn't plan to do anything else. So it looks like they will be not in the running for UCF qualifications. So we go here to the UCS, and let's start in Rimini. We'll start in the open division here, and we've got Armada, Costa Rica Grandes, Costa Rica Runners, Flying Angels Burn, Free Speed, Capao, Quixotes, and Rat Track Burn. So two pools starting things off, and then just like in your summer tour, everybody makes the bracket, so you can do whatever you want on Saturday and still play your way to the wild card on Sunday. What do you see? I'll show all the pools here, so it's a bit easier to look at where things are stacking up. What do you see here first in Open Pool A, Open Pool B?
I think I'm going to be bold, and I'm just going to back Quixotes to win this, even without Jorge Bula playing for them. They play such a different style of frisbee that I think quite a lot of these teams at this summer tour will struggle to play against, apart from maybe the Italians. I think they are like a cut above the rest, and like their ranking currently sort of proves that. But I think that they will probably walk away with this summer tour.
I do think Costa Rica are ranked just above them.
Yes, they are. Moment. But I guess we'll see. We'll see the clash of styles. Yeah. I think that is likely to be the final, unless there's some great upset from one of the Swiss teams. But yeah, I don't really recognize anyone on the Costa Rica Grandes roster, so it's quite hard for me to well, apart from Fantini, very good. Quantini as well, and previous under-24 player. So
Matteo Paradisi, very top U24 player. I mean, this Costa Rica team, I think you're underselling them a little bit. They are quite good.
Yeah,
they're quite good. I think that they will. A lot of the U24 team came from them, from Rimini. Rimini is a big Ultimate City. I think the loss of Jorge Buja might be enough to push Costa Rica over the edge. And I know Rat Track is really hungry to try and push themselves in, so they're going to be coming for blood to try and get into that top 16. I don't know if it's quite in the cards for them, but given if they have a really good weekend and all the games here count a bit more, they could push themselves up. I do see Quixote still winning the game in pool play, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Rat Track in the semis and hoping to play a really close one, at least against Costa Rica. I agree with you. That's probably going to be the final. But I think, especially with Buja missing, I would back Costa Rica to take the wild card in this one.
Yeah, interesting. I think it's hard for me to speculate on Rat Track. I can't see their roster, sadly. But I have just looked at the Quixotes roster, and it's a little bit shorter than it probably usually is. So yeah, I think you might be right on that one.
I mean, they've got Monterde, they've got Calarota, they've got some pretty good players here. But yeah, it is, and Jimenez. But it is a bit of a shorter one. We'll see. Rat Track, I think, haven't quite got their roster in, so I'm sure they're going to be paying some late fees for that. But yeah, make sure you get your rosters in on time. All right, yeah, that's Rimini in the open division. So let's go to women's. Question is, could Rat Track qualify without a wild card? Just going to quickly look at the rankings to see if that's at all possible. Rat Track sitting here at 139 points. I would say, like we said, 3 speed's kind of locked in, so they got to kind of clear 150 points. I don't think that's impossible. Well, they do already have a lot of games, to be fair. So that makes it harder, because if you have a lot of games in, then the new games is a smaller subset of your average, so it's harder to move your ranking the more games you have in the system. But the games all count for 1 1/4. So even though if they have 5 games, it's more like they have 6, 7. I think they're going to have 6 games, so that'll be more like 7-ish games. 7.5 games. So can that be enough to move yourself up 130 points, 150 points? I think it's possible, but they have to have a very, very good weekend, and they got to crush the bad teams and really play well. If they can beat Quixotes, I mean, Quixotes is a 354, big favorite against them. If they can get a win against Quixotes and Quixotes are down Jorge Buja, that's definitely a way they could qualify in without a wild card, even if they lose to Costa Rica in the final. So it's definitely possible. Let's go to women's. I'm gonna look at the pools here. Sorry, how does this finish? This finishes just with a placement game. So only the pool winners are going to get themselves in the running for the wild card. So we've got here pools of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you get 4 games there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 games there, and then the 5th game is the wild card game. So we got in Pool A, Tequila Boom Boom, Yaka, Fabulous, Gentle, and Sick. Pool B, BFD Cheetahs, I think are a little overrated, sorry. Sharks, Hot Mess Express, Heidi, Synergy, and Horizon. Interesting, because for me, I think the top teams here, I think BFD Cheetahs are overrated because they only have 3 games in the system and they're just really high in the rankings because it's been a bit going their way. I think Tequila Boom Boom and Yaka are probably the best 2 teams here, with Sharks maybe having something to say about that. So I think this game between Tequila and Yaka is going to be a very important one to see who gets that wild card position. And then I think it'll be Sharks taking the Pool B. But what do you see here in this summer tour?
I think Pool A is going to be a bit of a bloodbath, as in there's 3 very highly ranked teams of in quite close proximity to each other. So I'm expecting some very close games in Pool A. I think all of those teams more than capable of winning the wild card. So, but 2 of them are going to fall short.
Yeah, just checking it out. Sharks is here at 8th, Yaka at 9th, and Fabulous at 11th. So yeah, very, very close in the rankings indeed.
And it's surprising to see, like you said, the Cheetahs top of Pool B, or I don't know. Actually, is it alphabetical? It's not, is it?
No. It's because they're ranked. It's based on the summer tour. It's based on their rankings, and they happen to be ranked 7th, but their games are. I just
looked. So they've got 3.
They've got 2 losses to BFD Shout that haven't become blowouts yet somehow. But they probably will once more results go in. So it's like getting blown out by Shout is still a very good result at the moment.
Yeah.
And once they have, and then they have this 1 win over Queen Kong, which I think kind of pins them to this ranking. So they do have 1 good result, which is this win over Queen Kong at Tom's Tourney, but very, very dubious standing at the moment. Let's just put it that way.
And are they playing single games?
Yeah, they're going to play 2 single games against Sharks in addition to the tournament. So that Sharks is also only playing summer tour and I think Tom's Tourney or something. Because Sharks is also they got 3 games in at Tom's Tourney, and yeah, they still need 2 more games as well. So there'll be some games between them, I think, before the tournament. So that'll also already kind of give you a preview as to what's going on in women's Pool B. But yeah, I'd agree with you that I think Pool A has a bit more of the talent in it.
I think Cheetahs need to have quite a good weekend then, because if those 2 games, those 2 blowouts, reflect as they should, they're probably going to fall quite far. So they need good results against these teams that are sort of on the fringe, especially Sharks, who are somewhat close to them in the rankings.
Yeah,
I really don't know how this one's going to go. I think I'd quite like to see Sharks take Pool B. They have a similarly fun style. I quite like watching Spanish Frisbee on the grass, and they've got some top talent. So, but it could go anywhere, couldn't it?
Yeah,
I really don't know with Pool B.
And what do you back on Pool A? Who do you think is taking it? I think it's probably Tequila or Yaka, and I want to say Tequila because of how things have gone this year. But Yaka's Yaka. I'm just curious to see Yaka's roster. They've got Castillo, they've got Tisson, Natalia Gomez, Celine Mondio, Paula Bass, and Leborn. Yeah, a lot of the top players: Jean Delaval, Swan Lacoste Lefebvre, Aman Babican. Pretty good team that they've got coming out here.
That's a really good team. Yeah.
And Tequila Boom Boom, as long as they've got Lafayette out there, I believe in them. So that's
she is there. She is there.
Okay. All right. Well, and what's your take? My take is Tequila is going to take it, so I'll be Tequila over Sharks in the final game.
I believe in Yaka to come away with this one, but I'm going to take Yaka over Sharks in the final.
Yeah. John Dock saying the blowouts change nothing because it currently brings them down. That's true. What I'm saying is that they only have, so basically they have 1 game that is not a blowout, which is this big game, which against Queen Kong, which actually is a very good result. It's a 300-point result. But when that starts to become just 1 data point as opposed to basically their whole average, maybe those blowout games will get knocked out, and then we'll see how things go. But we'll see. We'll see. Regardless, they don't have a lot of data yet, and we're going to see how they finish out after the summer tour. Are they for real or not? Let's move on to Wrocław, where we've got also an open women's. Here we've got Pool A, Pool B, and Pool C going into some type of weird crossover. I think this is this is an 11-team situation, so you can't have a very clean format. Forgetting all that, we've got Orebro, who we really want to see, are they the real deal or not here? Child Monkeys, Zoom, and Panthers, who are very low in the rankings, despite having been a UCF team not so long ago. I think they might be last in the rankings right now, which is a bit wild to me because I think they, like I said, they were an UCF team not super long ago.
They have been for a few years. I mean, in 2023, I think they were in the UCF team. I don't know about last year.
Last year for sure not, but
Yeah.
right now I think they are literally second to last, just above Dublin Frisbee Sevens in the rankings with an 0-3 record. So curious if they're gonna have a much stronger team at Summer Tour than what they've shown the rest of the season. Pool B, we got Ketchup, Smog, Fui, and Solent. Fui being the second team out of the 3SB Fui combination project. Outsitters, Freesbees, and Uprising there in Pool C. So I think the big question mark here is, I think people know Ketchup are pretty good. I think maybe people are thinking Freesbees might be a good team to be a young one, but are Odebrew for real or not? And Aki Tochu coming out with a question again: can Ketchup qualify without a wild card? We'll get into that in a sec. But first off, what do you think? Looking at this tour,
It's such a hard one to call. I think KFUM are by far the highest seeded team at this tournament, but there's definitely people on the cusp, and it's really hard to know how good they are because it's been a long time since they played a recorded game, all the way back in spring tour. So, but the caveat to that, I guess, is they are bringing the same roster, or what looks to be the exact same roster. They've got Jonathan Andgaard, they've got Johan Byron, they've got a good team. So if they can produce some of that magic again, I would expect them to have a strong tournament and probably take the wild card. I mean, all the data seems to back that up. And then maybe that means that Swedish Ultimate is back again. It's been a little while, hasn't it? But
yeah.
It's nice to see a team from Sweden competing in the Open division.
Yeah, we had, I think, Valkyria in the women's division was, I think, like top 4, maybe 5-6 years ago. That's the last I can remember of a good Swedish team in the. I mean, SE6 was good in the mixed. They won back in like the mid 2010s, I think. But in open, I can't think. I mean, Vic Schiffers used to sometimes be there when there were 24 teams, and they would be around the bottom somewhere. But yeah, it would be interesting to see Odebrew bring it in the top 16. And Ketchup, another team though, I think very traditionally very strong, always kind of on that cusp. I think they're very close to the cusp last year as well. Definitely back themselves to try and push themselves into a top 16 and or probably want to go for the wild card. I mean, I think the best way to get out of this division into the UCF is to win that wild card. John Dock saying 4 teams could legit chance to win it. I count Orebro, Ketchup, Freesbees. Who's your you? Some people were talking Smog. What do you think as a UK person? You think Smog has a chance to win on this field?
I do, yeah. I think that they are good, and I think they're somewhat hidden because they've only played that spring tour, and so don't have like a great spread of games. So it'd be interesting to see. I think they usually do quite well at tournaments like this, and I think their style of play somewhat surprises European teams. So I wouldn't be surprised, and I think they are a team for me to root for if I want to see maybe another UK team fall short of qualifying for UCF. So um, yeah, I think they've got a strong roster. Specifically thinking about people like Eddie Codd, very big receiver, very big man. They've got Will Collier, fresh off GB mixed in Australia, and they've got a lot of younger sort of people on the rise who, bring that intensity and fire. So they play a big game. But they are missing. Are they missing anyone? I just know that they've got like a huge training squad of like 50 people. So I don't know if they're missing anyone, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah, I
that's
think they're a contender.
Smog catch-up one to watch in that Pool B matchup. Will be a very interesting one to see.
Yeah, I expect that to be a shootout because catch up similarly with Valentin play a big
Yeah.
game. So that would be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, we'll see. Sorry, people hearing motorcycles in my background. I don't know if that's catching on my mic, but it's really, really hot here, so I had to leave the windows open for this show. Okay. And then in Pool C, we got Outsitters, Freezebees, and Uprising. Oh, I got the Akitochu says no Nick Williams. I got the question of can Ketchup qualify without winning a wild card. I think it's pretty tough at this stage, but let's see where they're at exactly. They're sitting at 18th. They have to again cross into 14th. They got to gain over 150 ranking points. The trouble is, aside from Orebru, most of the teams here are not that highly ranked. So, like, to get that high of a ranking against Smog, they have to win by a pretty big margin. And to get that ranking against teams below Smog, like Fui and Solent, they're going to have to win by even bigger margins. So I think it's quite hard. How many games do they have? They have 8 games also in the system, so it's not like they just have a 5 or something like that. So I would say Ketchup's only chance is to get the wild card. I won't say it's mathematically impossible. If they win all their games like 15-0 and lose the final, they could maybe still do it. But yeah, that's pretty tough. John Dock saying terrible monkeys to take 3SB's EUCF spot, very possible in his opinion. So he knows about that Czech ultimate. So terrible monkeys,
Always the Czech homer. He's always the Czech homer.
Yeah. It's they're also pretty been a decent team. Tadeus Grimm, very good player. So we'll have to see. Martin Vilt's another one. So can they beat Orebro? I think that'll be a nice test. Liam says, forget Smog if Nick Williams isn't there. I don't know what you think about that take.
I mean, he is very good. But I think they've managed without him in the past. So I think they'll be fine.
All right. Women's another 11 team. Looks like Wrocław is cursed to having 11 team tournaments here. So we have the similar format. We've got Pool A, Jinx Midnight, Malmö, Örebro, and Box. Pool B, Bristol, Ketchup, East Block, and Flame. And Pool C, 3SB, Spice, and Dublin. Just take a quick look at Jinx. I mean, I guess they'll be missing their World Games players. Nikki Priyan definitely going to be out. And actually, that might be the only, since Leifka's not playing Jinx Midnight this season, might be one of the only ones they're missing. Simona Lieberth here now, and they've got Anna Gerner, who decided not to play World Games this year. They've got Teresa Havlchova, which is another good import from the Czech Republic. So pretty good team, not a big team, but I would say looking at the fields, pretty heavy favorites to take this out. I mean, maybe Bristol. I'm sure you have some Bristol homer energy that you can counter me with, but I would say Jinx Midnight's probably going to take this one.
I think I probably have to agree, although my heart tells me otherwise.
Well, Bristol also missing Molly, so who was also at the World Games. So
yeah, it's true.
Not going to do them any favors.
I think the interesting thing to think about this weekend is it's going to be 32 degrees in Wrocław. 2 days. It's going to wear thin on teams with shorter rosters, and I know Jinx play like a very possession oriented game. So I wonder, they might get a bit tired. So I think the door could be open, but I think they're bringing a strong enough team to secure the wild card, to be honest.
And yeah, this Orebro team I saw before, they have Sophia Eklund. I thought they had Oda Homelong, but she doesn't seem to be rostered here. Alva Angergaard. Is Vendela Victorson here? No. So I actually, even for them, it's not their strongest roster. So I don't really see them pushing themselves a bit harder here. I did, when I saw their initial master roster, I saw Vendela and Oda and all these really good Swiss, basically almost all the good Swedish players that were not named Sarah Eklund were on the team. And I thought they'd have a really nice season, but yeah, so far here, not even the best Swedish team, the Malmö Ultimate Club, doing better than Orebro.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
They've
So
also got Barbora Kundalita playing for them from
exactly. Yeah, I saw that
Lithuania.
as well.
Very interesting pickup.
And 3SB here has had a pretty decent season, especially when they're ranking their games. They do have the Toshnarovas, which is always a question mark for them, as they're both mothers, and at least they have Rahel. Do I see Sarah? Yeah, Sarah's also right here. That of course helps that team a lot, even though they're also a good army of other teams, other players. Could see them trying to punch up at Jinx. I mean, with Jinx with this right roster, if they have to go through both that 3SB and that Bristol team, depending on which order they go through, they might be a little tired come that last game. But yeah, I still think it's Jinx's to win.
I agree. Sadly, I have to go with Jinx.
All right, and as I said before, a couple single games, and I'll get into the questions on the single games in a sec. Gonna check my chat here. It's a comment from Seltzer Mix. What happens when you apply a 1.25 ranking for the Zoo mixed game? As in the game, I'm guessing this is in reference to the game against Savage. So as I said before, that was their best game in the season. I didn't run the numbers myself. You can quickly run them if you want, but I think it would probably be worth a single ranking point. But that'd be my guess. And so that would flip the result. But it was only worth 1.18 games. But I'm not sure. I haven't done the numbers myself. But that's, I mean, you just to run that's a little straightforward. You just go click on Zoo Mixed, look at their games, and you just take all these game ratings, multiply them by these weights, divide by the sum of the weights, and you should get their weighted average. So given that this 427 point game was their highest rated, if you had this a bit weighted higher, would they have gone up 1 point? I think that's worth a point, but I can't do that math in my head. Okay. So Gracina, I know that you're very, very upset about the system, and we have been interacting with you through email. I'll try to answer some of your questions on the show, but we will take some of this offline. As for the latest question, I apparently said that the game was going to be on Wednesday and it's going to be on Thursday. That's just me misspeaking. Sorry. I must have messed that up. If the website says it's on Thursday, it's probably on Thursday. So I apologize for that. That's my bad on the communication. So they're saying, like, would it be okay if they have forehands in Zurich advanced because they organize games and overtake leftovers because they don't? They don't see how it's okay. Like, look, I get all of that, and I know that Summer Tour was is supposed to be the end of the season. Again, at the beginning of the season, we had a planned mixed Summer Tour next weekend, so it wasn't going to be the end of the season. Early on, but at some point, we pushed the mixed Summer Tours all to the first weekend of August. But because we never told teams that would then be the end of the season, we had to keep allowing the season to go until the 17th of August. It can feel a bit gaming of the system, but I just want to point out that it is just games being played. And yes, games being played when the rest of the games are played does give you a bit more knowledge of how to attack that game, but they still have to play an honest game against an honest team that's going for something. You mentioned that SkyThis would have nothing to play for if you played them. Well, I would disagree because SkyThis is basically on the cusp of making it into the second division of the ECF, so they do have something to play for. I mean, they could, of course, flow is quite a bit below them, but they could end up losing ranking points, and if they play really badly, might bump out. Yes, you have much more to win because you are in this 1 point situation, but yeah, that's what it is. And by the way, if you play SkyThis, you're also risking. You're putting a big risk there because if you lose, and let's say Zoomix doesn't end up overperforming against Colorado, you could end up flipping your game as well. So again, it's another game in the data set of a lot of games. Yes, there's a 1 point difference, so things could flip. But if things are that close, it's not that safe to begin with, and something else that happened 2 games away from you might have changed the result as well. Again, we will be looking into all of this and thinking about how to adapt for next year. But for this year, we had already set the rules in place. We had already said that the games could go until the 17th of August. So games will be allowed to be played until the 17th of August. And that does mean that there will be a Zoo Mixed versus Colorado game happening. And if you feel from forehands, we are giving you, because the situation is awkward and we didn't get back to you in time, we are giving you the chance to set up a single game in this last week so that you also have an even chance to touch your ranking. You're talking about RJP, and actually, yeah, if you play teams that are that lowly ranked, that's also a huge risk for you as well. So you're free to do that, but like you have to crush them, because they could, if you don't crush those teams, your ranking's going to go down, and that could flip the ranking for you. So again, you are free to do that. We take a risk and Zurich doesn't. Zurich absolutely takes a risk. If Colorado beats them and you guys play a game, they could drop in the rankings as well. So yeah, it's just the way it is. There will be one more game in the ranking system, and that's just the way it's going to have to go. I'm going to close it for now. We'll take it offline via email if you want to ask some more questions. I agree. Things were not communicated totally perfectly this year. We're going to try to improve that with a codified set of rules in a document for next year. But yeah, that does it. So I'm going to go back to Dom and wait to see if there were any other questions in the chat that I missed, but I think we caught most of them. Yeah, Dom, any final thoughts? What's your opinion thinking about the end of the season? What are your, no, not opinion, just what are your thoughts going into the last weekend of Summer Tour? Last year was super exciting. Heidi's managed to just squeeze themselves out of the ranking. Isn't a good push themselves in. What do you think is going to happen in this coming weekend? What are you excited about?
I really don't know. And I think that's sort of the excitement that Summer Tour brings, is that there's so many people on the cusp of making Europe, like either EUCF1 or EUCF2. So, that's where all these big games and like the value of these games starts to rise, really. So I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm going to be watching very closely, seeing what's happening especially in Wrocław.
Yeah, I'm going to try. Last year, I managed to do a show Saturday night of the last weekend of Summer Tours, running the rankings on the games from the first day. I think that I'm free right at the moment, so I'm going to try to see if I can get that show out. No promises, but I'll try to at least get the rankings out Saturday night after all the games are played, which will also include all the last single games that are being played in the system. So yeah, that should be very interesting. So thanks, Dom. Thanks for coming on. Congrats again for being the lowest ranked team to ever qualify for the EUCF. You take that with pride and enjoy yourself in Poland. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll hopefully see you Saturday night. If not, on the next Tuesday, we will have the EUCF reveal show to show who's in and who's out. Thanks, Dom. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you.